America's enemies on notice. President Trump with military leaders issuing a strong statement, possibly a warning.
You guys know what this represents? Well, I don't know, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
This as global flashpoints flare across the world, including North Korea's nuclear ambitions and tensions with Iran. With us now is John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor. Ambassador Bolton, I sort of think he was trolling everybody.
Well, you could be right. Certainly, we're still talking about it 24 hours later. My guess is that perhaps, at least on his mind, remember, before the dinner, he met with all of these commanders, and I'm sure if they simply reviewed what their responsibilities were around the world, it would make any commander-in-chief all too well aware of the threats that the country faces. But there could have been a bit of trolling in it as well. I mean, trolling for the media, and then, I mean, it could also be sending a message, like you said, to, I mean, whether it's North Korea or anyone else who's thinking about or has exhibited aggressive behavior during the last administration and sort of took advantage of this country to say, look at these people who are surrounding me. Guess what? There's a new boss in town. Yeah, without regard to what the president may have intended, I think you've put your finger on it. Look, a lot of bills are coming due in this administration from what, in my opinion, are policy failures of prior administrations, particularly the last 8 years, with North Korea, with Iran, with Russia's aggressive policy in Eastern and Central Europe and the Middle East, with China's aggressive policy in the South and East China Sea. There's a long list of things that confront us, and obviously we're focused on our domestic economy and the tragedy in Las Vegas and the like, but ultimately the president's main responsibility is our international safety. Yeah. What do you make of North Korea's behavior recently? Look, I think they are not intimidated yet. I don't think the Chinese really have put the economic squeeze on them or the political squeeze. I don't expect that to change until after the 19th Communist Party Congress is over mid this month and Xi Jinping's power is consolidated. But I tell you, I really do think we're beginning to run out of time. I take a lot of North Korea's claims as pure propaganda and bluster. They've made very rapid progress. You cannot gainsay it on the nuclear side, on the ballistic missile side. So the president's time is dwindling and his range of options are dwindling unless we want to see North Korea with nuclear weapons, which I think would be a grave mistake. I mean, and speaking of nukes, the deadline is approaching. Reports the Trump administration plans to decertify the Iran deal by this October 15th deadline. The commander-in-chief, this was him speaking on Iran yesterday.
We must not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. The Iranian regime supports terrorism and exports violence. We must put an end to Iran's continued aggression and nuclear ambitions. They have not lived up to the spirit of their agreement.
So do you think he should decertify, and what does that exactly mean?
Well, they haven't lived up to the letter of the agreement either. Let's be clear of that, or Security Council Resolution 2231. This decertify question is like a bright, shiny object. It's actually irrelevant to the main question. The main question is this deal in the best interest of the United States? If the answer to that question is no, of course we don't certify, but more importantly, the president should announce we're getting out of the deal. It is utterly illogical. It's a one shoe on, one shoe off approach to say, well, we'll decertify under the separate Corker-Cardin legislation, but stay in the deal. If the deal's not in America's interest, if it's embarrassing, as the president has said, he cannot remain in it. I think the proponents of the deal are doing almost anything they can to save it, hope that some time will pass and they can resurrect it. I think the president should cut, and cut cleanly, as Paul Laxalt once advised, get out of the deal, show leadership, create a new reality, and then put pressure on Iran. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, what is the next step after that? So you get out. That sends a pretty clear signal, except for that, you know, they sort of thought that's where the president's head was anyway. Then what's the next step after that? Yeah, look, I think most people back in July, the last time this certification question came up, believe that when you said decertify, it meant getting out of the deal. That's a common sense understanding, and that's what he should do. decertify and exit the deal. Then I think you put more American sanctions on them for their nuclear and ballistic missile program. You investigate more carefully the highly likely level of cooperation with North Korea. We know they're cooperating on missiles. Almost certainly they are on nuclear weapons as well. You go to the Europeans and say, we understand this is going to cause you some difficulty, but you need to join with us. And we see what we can do, including talking to Israel about possible military steps.
So they followed that advice with North Korea, and they did really crank up the sanctions. Have we seen any benefit of that yet? I mean, I know it hasn't been very long, but it's, I mean, when you cut off the money and you cut off the people who are doing, anyone who does business with them can't do business with us, it does get serious pretty quickly.
Yeah, except North Korea doesn't really have an economy. It's just like a big prison camp. Their economy depends on China and Russia, and we haven't yet seen real proof that pressure is being put on. It's possible this time because they see Trump as very serious and considering military force. Yeah. Iran is different. It's a much more complex economy. I think we can have some influence there. But honestly, this regime still thinks it's got the better. And as long as the deal survives, they will be able to do deals with the Europeans that benefit them economically, with China, with Russia. That's why we need to be unequivocal. This deal is dead as far as we're concerned, and we're going to act accordingly.
Ambassador Bolton, always brilliant. Thank you for coming on. Happy Friday, sir. See you soon.